For many years, it has been well known that the digital and technology literacy skills of California K12 students are below that of their peers from most other states. This gap in digital and technology literacy has an impact on their workforce competitiveness as young adults. My name is Mark Epstein. I am director of the California Environmental Technology Education Network. Our network has been working with California K12 teachers in school sites since the early years of the 21st century. We have developed a reputation to being a leader in bringing geospatial technology, in particular web mapping, to K12. Since the beginning of the century, geospatial technology has become easier to use with greater accessibility and applicability to the K12 classroom. The greatest challenge we have faced in bringing the benefits of this technology to K12 students is the misconception of K12 educators of what is meant by geospatial technology. When most K12 educators hear the term geospatial technology, they presume it means using Google Earth. The fact is, Google Earth is about a decade out of date in the capacity of this technology as an instructional tool. To understand what is meant by the use of geospatial technology in web mapping today, let me show you a clip from a program called the Geospatial Revolution, which was produced in 2010 as a partnership between Penn State and PBS.
Say you're in California, where I live, and you want to know how susceptible your house is to a wildfire. So we put sensors, like our eyes, on satellites. We collect information, and then computers create maps. Okay, now you have a map, so you want to analyze that map. Well, you take the information about the slope. Are you on a dead-end street? Do you have a lot of fuel around your house? You put all of that information into a computer, and it can tell you how at risk you are for losing your home to a wildfire.
As you can see, today the use of geospatial technology means going beyond passive observation, but interactivity with various data layers. Use of geospatial technology is becoming increasingly important as a workplace skill, especially since the development of web mapping around 2010. In 2004, the United States Department of Labor identified geospatial technology as one of 3 technologies as being the hot technologies for the 21st century. Recently, the World Economic Forum focused on what is being called the 4th Industrial Revolution. Geospatial technology was included as a topic. Several videos were created from this forum. One of those focused on the role of geospatial technology. Let's look at a clip from that video.
The revolutions that are going on in terms of affordable, massive technological shifts, geospatial is one really significant golden thread that's going to enable all users to find sense in some of the huge changes that are going on.
If we talk about augmented reality, yes, geospatial plays a role in terms of creating that virtual environment. If we talk about machine learning, robotics, geospatial definitely has a role.
All of us in the industry, from the data, the sensor developers and providers to the software providers, we see that wave coming of really the democratization of GIS and geospatial technology. Everyone will be using it in some form or fashion, but they won't have to be experts in the field to be able to process the information.
We absolutely have a place to play in it, and our expertise in analyzing place is what brings us to the table. And so I think we should embrace fully participating in it.
So geotechnology, the location technology, is foundational to fourth industrial revolution, and I'm glad that our industry is a critical part of that.
Using geospatial technology in the form of web mapping has become advantageous for K12 as college and career preparation. This is particularly true in both science and social studies. In 2010, the National Council of the Social Studies, along with other organizations, included geospatial technology as part of the C3 standards for state frameworks. In 2016, most of those passages were included in the California History Social Science Framework. In the spring of 2016, I took the opportunity to interview Frank Peasy of the Sacramento County Office of Education, who was involved with the development of the new framework, discussing the inclusion of geospatial technology. Since that interview, the Sacramento County Office of Education was awarded the contract for Phase 2 of the implementation of the framework, and Mr. Peasy was named as the statewide coordinator of that project. Let's take a look at a clip from that interview.
And my first question for you, Frank, is how does when you guys looked and discussed geospatial technology, what did you guys find as far as having it in the framework of how it is improving social studies instruction and benefit for kids in the classroom?
So with our new framework, the biggest shift, or one of the biggest shifts, is around student inquiry. With that, it's having students become very critical consumers of data and information, looking at historical events from different perspectives. And geospatial technology is another one of the tools that we didn't have in school that was available to us. It didn't exist at the time when we were in school, but now this is something that students are facing and dealing with and having to learn how to navigate as they head into the future. So 21st century skills is a big focus of the new statewide framework, as well as the inquiry process. And so geospatial technology and learning how to work and develop and use these tools are part and parcel to what students are going to need to not only be successful in school, but to be successful in life.
As you can see, Mr. Peasy referred to the adoption of the inquiry process which comes from science. Even though geospatial technology is not mentioned in the next generation science standards, it has great value in science instruction. The absence of geospatial technology in the next generation science standards can be attributed to the fact that at the time these standards were drafted, the technology did not have the accessibility to K-12 as we have today in the form of web mapping. Geospatial technology can be used as an instructional tool to meet multiple cross-cutting themes. With the abundance of science-related data layers available in web mapping interfaces, this is an excellent interactive tool to use with students. This is particularly true with earth and environmental science. To give you an idea of what can be done, let's take a look at another clip from the geospatial revolution.
You need to know what's happening on the Earth in a spatially continuous way and how this varies over time. Both of those are provided by geospatial technologies.
When you're making decisions, you can't just take anecdotal information. You need quantified, explicit information which really will let you determine, is this bad or is it really bad, so that we don't over-respond and we don't ignore a real problem.
I'm an earth scientist. I want to know how the Earth works. That's what mapping is ultimately telling us. Where things are, how they're related, how it's put together to tell us the story of what really is happening.
Geospatial technology is a fundamental tool if we hope to understand what's happening on the planet, especially in the study of climate, where we have data and we need to study many things simultaneously.
At NASA, we take geospatial data and observations of the Earth, like the vegetation index and rainfall and the observations of the atmosphere, and we incorporate them into models.
Suppose you've got a 2-mile thick, 1 continent wide piece of ice that's called Greenland. Is that ice getting bigger or smaller? What's happening? Satellites are watching how fast the ice goes over time, and you collect all these data sets and you slap them onto a map. And then you can start to say, this place is thickening, this place is thinning, this place is dumping icebergs faster.
So with repeated satellite data, you can tell, are things changing? And if they're changing, why are they changing?
The greatest frustration I have had in bringing geospatial technology to California K12 is that even though our state is the home of the industry, California has the lowest utilization of the technology of any state in K-12. Since being one of 2 Californians to serve on a NASCA task force in 2011 focused on bringing geospatial technology to K-12, I have watched other states' K-12 systems embrace this technology as our California students are being left behind. Our network has had success with bringing geospatial technology and web mapping to scattered schools and teachers across the state, but far too few. One of the locations we have been very successful has been at James Rudder Middle School in Sacramento, which is part of the Elk Grove Unified School District. Rudder Middle School has been named by the American Association of Geographers as one of 15 schools across the country as a case study in the best practices in the use of geospatial technology in K-12. At the 2019 CalGIS conference, this status led to Rudder Middle School being recognized during the conference awards lunch. This led to some media coverage, including a story on Sacramento ABC News 10. Let's take a look at a portion of that story.
A group of local students are learning how to make maps.
This skill that they're learning is unique.
They can show you information about the places around you instead of like someone just telling you. Like it gives you a visual thing to look at.
The group of 125 students at Rudder Middle School are using a system called ArcGIS. They're creating and using maps, compiling geographic data, and managing information in a database. If you're not familiar with the geospatial technology, like I was, it describes a range of modern tools contributing to the mapping and analysis of the Earth and its human societies. It's actually recognized by the U.S. Department of Labor as a high-growth career field, and this program will prepare students for a bright future.
Most of the stuff they learn in school, it applies to a job, but it wouldn't be a job in itself. This is a job in itself. There are people out there that are actually making maps.
I think that it's okay to be learning these things this young, because if we don't, then we might have to learn later, and that's going to take more time.
One of the things we attempt to do is have students use the skills they have learned in creating digital maps in layers to develop and complete real-world projects which benefit the community. This practice increases student motivation and attention to the quality of their work. It also assists them in preparation for interpersonal relationships in the workplace. Recently, I came across a good example of this type of practice at Beaufort High School in South Carolina. Let's take a look at a portion of that story.
Everybody did a great job, and I'm so very, very proud of you guys. And
awarded for mapping out the Low Country, the South Carolina Low Country Tourism Commission was thanking Beaufort High School students in the Geographic Information Systems class for creating maps of the area. The GIS students use a digital program online to create maps that tell stories. The Tourism Commission will feature at least 4 of the interactive student maps on their website, hoping to attract more people to the area.
The students did a great job at putting the maps together. They feature some of the wonderful places in Beaufort to visit. They also feature some of the natural beauty with Funny Island and some of the older schools, and one was on the Walterboro area, the Colleton County area. So it's just a really cool way to see what they see through their eyes.
The students had fun creating their maps, learning about the area, and highlighting places important to them.
So I did Beaufort. I did the historic churches of Beaufort, and I took it through like a journey all to show like 7 main historic churches. I grew up in one of the historic churches that I mentioned, the Baptist Church of Beaufort, and it really, like growing up and learning like the history of it, it was like cool, and so I wanted to share that.
So I did Colleton County, and I focused more on the natural wildlife kind of aspect of it. I included more of like the wildlife sanctuaries and such.
Last month, the students also worked with members from the county's GIS office.
On GIS Day, November 14th, they brought their drone and showed the students how they use a drone to collect data that can be applied to a map, so that, and they do this all around the county for various reasons, so they explained the use of mapping in the county operations.
The Tourism Commission says the student maps will be on SouthCarolinaLowCountry.com by January.
As geospatial technology in the form of web mapping has become easier to use, students respond well, resulting in improved learning. In the process of field testing instructional materials, we have found that on-task time behavior drastically increases. At the 5th and 6th grade level, the number one comment from teachers is the improved on-task behavior, with many making the comment and mentioning the positive impact with their hyperactive boys. Another group of teachers with very positive comments are those in special education. They have reported students are better able to filter information, comprehend concepts, and retain material when using the interactive web mapping interface tools versus paper maps and atlases. During the summer of 2016, our network took a group of high school students representing multiple high schools to the GIS International Users Conference in San Diego to display their products at the Map Gallery Youth Exhibit area, attend workshop sessions, and explore the exhibit hall. At this conference, we brought along our new video recorder and had the students interview other students from across the country and to record their thoughts at the end of the day. Here are 4 clips from those recordings.
Get introduced to ArcGIS.
How we got introduced? Well, I started doing it at the beginning of this school year, and I got involved from my teacher, Miss Blackburn. She put me in it, and at first I was like, technology, nah, that's not me. I'm a hammer and nail guy. Give me some tools, I got you. But then as I, got into it more, I was like, hey, you know what? This can benefit me in the future because I want to be a construction worker. And I was like, what I can do is I can find areas with nothing there and put something there for the community. And what her subject is on how we have low income and we have some people with unemployment rates. I was like, hey, I can build some jobs there that help people out. That way it can be some income there. Bam.
And there were some more cool things like 3D modeling. I didn't know you could do 3D modeling in ArcGIS. It looked really cool. I actually want to try it out. You could try out different surfaces and things. And also, when you come over here, you get to look at all the different companies. And maybe in the future you could be like, oh, maybe I could work there someday. And like every time you come over here, it's like a job search, We got more things. I think the thing that caught my attention was the goggles and the glasses. These glasses, you got to like play a game on them, and it was actually pretty fun. You got to move around your body like a 360 view, and you were like this little jet that collected gems and stuff. And then the goggles like in the goggles, it like projects a landscape or a surface of a picture, and you get to do all kinds of things in it, and you get to be more in depth in your ArcGIS. And
so you feel it might be worthwhile to take some time in class, teach the kids the process, and then let them go from there?
Yeah, because it's the future now.
Exactly. Yeah, very good. Do you see time in that course, maybe a week, where students sit down and learn some of the GIS, ArcGIS Online features and implement that in their projects?
Definitely. There was so many opportunities where we could have used GIS to make the class and the lesson way better, more fun, interactive, and all that stuff. So yeah.
As we can see, the use of geospatial technology as an instructional tool has great benefits to enhance learning. But the real benefit to the students is that they will be able to build on using these tools toward career and college preparation. Since the development of web mapping, the use of geotechnology has exploded across career fields. During the 2016 GIS International Users Conference, not only did the students record interviews and their thoughts at the end of the day, but my colleague David Haynes, a teacher from Channel Islands High School in Oxnard, and I did the same. One of Mr. Haynes' interviews was with Bill Winston, a professor from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. This clip really gets to the heart of why K-12 teachers need to be using this technology as an instructional tool and how it relates to college and career readiness.
My question was, why should we, and this was presented to the university people, half the room was university instructors and personnel. The question was, why should we as high school teachers and lower, why should we be teaching GIS in the classroom?
Well, and my response was that as consumers of information, and particularly as people who actually carry around very powerful computers that allow us daily to deal with and interact with maps, many of us don't understand any of the concepts that drive how those maps are created and the data that's actually displayed upon them. And I think GIS is actually the best way for people to get under the hood of those sorts of applications and understand why it's so important, and also understand the limitations of the technology. It's a very powerful technology. When I went to high school, I didn't know anything about word processing or spreadsheets, and now you can't succeed in business or in education without an intimate knowledge of those two tools. And GIS is going to become another ubiquitous tool that we all need to understand in order to succeed. And I think in almost any industry that you get into, there are some aspects of GIS that are going to prove useful for that technology.
It is very apparent that the 3 years since this interview that the words of Professor Winston have become prophetic. This past summer, I attended the 2019 GIS International Users Conference with a couple students from Rudder Middle School to display in the Map Gallery youth area. During the Map Gallery reception and their exploration of the exhibit hall, these students impressed conference attendees and exhibitors. Those who were from California were surprised these students came from California. In the conversations I had with those individuals, it became apparent that the consequences of over a decade of lack of awareness and indifference to geospatial technology by California K12 as compared to other states is beginning to impact young people entering the geospatial technology profession. The young people from California seeking entry-level employment in the geospatial technology industry are much less competitive than their peers from states which embrace geospatial technology within their K-12 schools. In fact, this situation should be considered a crisis by California K-12 and leaders involved in economic and workforce development for the 21st century. We have crossed the line of just being an academic gap to a threat to the health of the California economy. The first problem we need to overcome is the lack of awareness by California educators. This problem was very well stated in the recordings of thoughts by Mr. Haynes and I on the last day of the 2016 GIS International Users Conference. Here's a clip of comments by Mr. Haynes from that recording.
You know, on that note, Mark, in reality, I don't think that most teachers in my district and my school even know that this world here that we're visiting this week exists. Right. They don't know about these careers. They don't know about these businesses. And these are businesses from city planning to banking to building drones to the USGS, Geological Survey. I mean, the businesses here are innumerable. And I don't believe most of our teachers are even aware of these careers and these technologies and how they all link together.
So with the combination of workforce needs and consequences of indifference, it is time for action. Action is needed from the legislature, the California Department of Education, the county education offices, district offices, colleges, and universities. From the legislature, funding needs to be provided for professional development in geospatial technology as part of the implementation of the new history, social science, and science frameworks. we are recommending a $1 million supplement specific for geospatial technology to the Phase 2 of the History Social Science Framework implementation appropriation to also include science teachers. From the California Department of Education, the county offices of education, there needs to be an effort to proactively create awareness and promote this technology. With the increase of rapidity of change in emerging technology, the passive culture of waiting for inclusion in standards and adoption process has become insufficient to meet the needs of California students. The California college and university credentialing programs need to provide their students with a basic awareness of this technology and how to use it in the classroom, particularly for those planning to teach social studies and science. The University of Southern California has already begun this process in partnership with their spatial science program. Other states are already ahead of California in this process. Another interview conducted by David Hayes at the 2016 GIS International Users Conference with a professor from Arizona State University Credentials Program as they were just initiating their inclusion of GIS for their students. Here is a clip from that interview.
I work for the Teachers College of ASU, and I am currently creating story maps of the grants that the school has received, and also I am working towards working with the faculty to get GIS in their methodologies classes so that student teachers become familiar with GIS and can then use it in their K12 classrooms once they're done with their internships.
Okay, great. So this is students that are in a teaching certification program.
Yes, the teacher preparation program that the Teachers College has.
And then, so they'll be learning the GIS, primarily ArcGIS?
Primarily. I will be using ArcGIS Online with them because they have access to an organizational account through ASU. And then also when they go into the classroom, they would then have access to it through the Connect Ed program. So I want to make sure I get them access to something that they have free when they go out to the field.
In that interview, the professor spoke on the use of ArcGIS Online. This is an easy resource for teachers to use. It has both free accounts and subscription organizational accounts. Esri has been very generous in making it a policy to provide K-12 schools free organizational ArcGIS accounts for classroom instruction. I will also point out that ArcGIS Online works very well with Google Chromebooks, which is rapidly becoming the dominant device in California K-12. As mentioned at the beginning of this video, our network has become a leader in California to bring this technology to the classroom. I would suggest checking out our website, which has a geospatial technology section, which we have worked to make the best one-stop information source for California K-12 educators. The website address will be provided at the end of the video. In early 2016, as web mapping continued to evolve, we began to develop interactive story maps with structured exercises that require no special training of teachers. These lessons are easy to use and cover the major subject contents taught and are aligned specific to California standards. As of the fall of 2019, we have about 125 lessons for grades 5 through 12. I would like to end this video with another clip from the Geospatial Revolution. This clip is with David DiBiase, who was at Penn State at the time and recently retired from Esri. It describes very well the role and importance of geospatial technology for our society. Thank you for your time.
For the insiders, the transition to digital geography has been truly revolutionary. That we can navigate our world with much greater confidence than we could have before. It's changed the science agenda, it's changed the technology, it's created new occupations, but For those outside who may not even be aware that there is a field called geospatial, it has made geography ordinary, which is the most revolutionary thing of all.